after. Bi'ur Mishnah Tet. Explanation for Mishnah Tet. Ein ben kohen mashuach beshemen hamishcha lemerube bgadim. There's no difference between a kohen who was anointed with the anointed oil to the one who has many clothes. Just as a introduction, in the temple, in the first temple, they anointed the high priest. In the second temple, they didn't anoint the high priest, but there still was a high priest. So how did he become a high priest? He became a high priest by wearing the 4 extra garments. In the first temple, just wearing the 4 extra garments wasn't enough. He was still anointed with the oil. So now he's going to say there's no difference between the two. Again, there's no difference between the two, except this is the difference, right? So in almost all things they're going to be the same, except that as we're going to see, there's going to be a difference. בימי הבית הראשון, in the days of the first temple, היה כהן גדול נמשך בשעת מינוייו בשמן המשחה. The high priest was also anointed with the anointing oil. אבל מימי המלך יאשיהו ואילך, from the king Yeshayahu and onwards, and even, so that's, I didn't know that. So even in the first temple, there was a period of time that there was no anointing oil also. From the time of Yeshayahu. And the entire second temple, ובזמן בית שני, and the entire second temple, לא היה שמן המשחה. There was no anointing oil. Why? כי נגנז על ידי יאשיהו. Because Yeshayahu hid it. והכהן הגדול, he hid it together with the ark, by the way. והכהן הגדול היה מתחנך בריבוי בגדים. So how did the high priest became a high priest? He became a high priest, but just by wearing the 4 extra garments that the high priest wears. היינו שהוסיפו לו 4 בגדים על 4 שלבש עד למנוייו. שהרי כהן ידיעות בשש 4 בגדים, רק ביסי רגל הכהן wears 4 garments, וכהן גדול ב8, and a high priest wears 8. ומכאן נקרא אז הכהן הגדול המרובה בגדים. And from here this is why we call the high priest the one who wears a lot of clothing. So
the Kohen Hediot also had 8?
No, 4. The regular Kohen had 4. The
Kohen Gadol usually had 8. So now they add 4 more?
No. What made him a Kohen Gadol was the 4 more.
The difference.
The difference before. Yeah.
After that they adding 4 more clothes.
No. So it's going to say, ואין בין הכהן הגדול המשוח בשמן המשחה. There's no difference between the one who was anointed, לכהן גדול המרובה בגדים, to the one who wasn't anointed, אלא פר הבא על כל המצוות. The only difference is the bull, as we're going to see what the case is going to be soon, that comes on the commandments. What does it mean, the bull that comes on commandments? So it's like this. שאם כהן משוח, if the anointed high priest, עבר על אחת, he transgressed on one of the commandments, מכל מצוות השם אשר לא תעשנה, in other words, he made a mistake. He thought somebody is allowed to be done, and he did it. היינו שטעה, but more than just he made a mistake. He made a mistake. He thought something was allowed to be done. והורה לעצמו היתר, and he thought, okay, since it's allowed, I'm going to do something which is forbidden. In what? In any commandment, בדבר שחייבים על זדונו כרת, on a commandment that if you do it purposefully, you get a kares, you get a cut off from the Jewish nation, ועל שגגדו חטאת. And if you do it by mistake, you have to bring a sin offering. For example, Shabbos. He thought something on Shabbos is allowed and it wasn't allowed. ועשה על פי הוראתו. So in other words, he was asked, that's the way he taught it, and he thought that he's allowed to do it, and he did it. Then, when he finds out he was mistaken, what does he have to do? חייב להביא פר על חטאתו. He needs to bring a bull on his sin, because he sinned offering. שנאמר, because it says, נפש כי תחטא בשגגה, a soul, if it makes a sin by mistake, Mikol mitzvot Hashem asher lo ta'asena, from any of the commandments of God that shouldn't be done, ve'asa me'achat mehena, and he did one of those, im hakohen HaMashiach. If is the verse continues, you should know that if he was an anointed priest, yechta le'ashmat ha'am, he's going to sin, ve'ikriv al chatato asher chata, he has to bring on his sin par ben bakar tamim la'Hashem chatat. He has to bring an extra, because he's the anointed high priest, he has to bring an extra sin offering. And it says HaKohen HaMashiach over there. It says the Kohen, the anointed. So if you're not anointed, you have to do sin offering. You have to make tshuva. You have to do all the things, but you don't bring that bull. אבל מרובה בגדים שעבר בשגגה לאחת מכל מצוות השם אשר לא תעשינה, but if he wasn't anointed, בשגגה תורה או תמעשה, אינו מביא פח לחטאת, אלא כסבה או שעירה. He doesn't bring a bull, he brings a regular sin offering. And what's a regular sin offering? It's either a sheep or a goat. Yeah. כדין אידיוט שחטא בשגגה, just like a regular Kohen that made a mistake, not a bull. Only an anointed Kohen brings the bull. Every other Kohen brings, for his sin offering, he just brings a sheep or a goat. So he also brings a sheep or a goat.
Now they have to bring the bull. The non-anointed bring sheep or a goat.
Yeah, that's it. That's all the difference.
They bring a bigger animal.
Yeah. אין בין כהן משמש לכהן שעבר. There's no difference between a Kohen that is on duty to a past Kohen. Let me explain what's going on over here. Think about this. A Kohen, a high priest that works in the temple. And he becomes impure for whatever reason. Somebody touches him who was impure. Or whatever reason he becomes impure. We don't really care what the case is. So he has to get out of the courtyard. Right? So he goes out. So you nominate another priest to become the high priest immediately. So another priest becomes the high priest. And this one goes out of the courtyard. And for some impurities, he just has to go to the mikveh, wait until night. So you go to the mikveh, wait until night. And then the next day, this high priest is going to come back.
Go back to his job.
Go back. So now, go back to his job. So now we have two priests. Two.
One is a Machlif.
Yeah, he's not going. So, I'm the high priest now. You went. It's my job now. Yeah, so now you have two high priests. So now the question is, what's the difference between them? Are they both serving? Let's say it's Yom Kippur the next day, or whatever. Who does the service of Yom Kippur? This one or this one? Yeah, or whatever it is. Who does the service of the high priest? So in a regular day, there's not really service. That's exactly what the case. You have two Kohanim Gdolim. So it says, which one is going to do the work? Yeah, because once you become a high priest, once you get elevated, you don't want to go down. You're just going to stay there until so maybe by the end of the week, they will let him go or something. But I don't know exactly what the length of time. But that's the idea. So it says, what is the difference between them? Is there a difference when the other priest came back, the real priest, let's say Aaron became impure. He left. So his son Elazar became the high priest. The next day Aaron comes back. Elazar is still considered to be, they're both considered to be high priest, but now the question comes, who does the job? Now on a regular day it's not a problem, because the Kohen doesn't have from the Torah any just a little bit. I think Hatavat HaNerot, he has to prepare the candles, but anybody can light it. And a couple of more things. So most of the stuff, so the example would be, who's going to prepare the candles for the calendar? Both of them can. It doesn't matter. Anyone, they can choose. They can do rock, paper, scissors. What's going on over here? So let's see. En ben Kohen mishamesh le Kohen shavar. So there's not difference between a Kohen that is right now on duty to a Kohen that passed. Sheken imira pasul beKohen gadol. If the high priest became impure, hayu memanim acher tartav. They would put another priest instead of him. Uksheavar psulo shel harishon, and when it was over the impurity of the first one, חזר לעבודתו. He returned to his service. ומאז נקרא הראשון, כהן משמש. So the first one, we're going to call him the Kohen that is actually, right now he's on duty.
First one being the original one? Or
No, the replacement, I think.
Now
Yeah.
become
Yeah.
first.
והשני נקרא כהן שעבר ממשיכותו. And the second one is considered to be the Kohen that was already passed. ואין בין כהן משמש לכהן שעבר. So there's no difference between them. אלא פר יום הכיפורים. So in other words, I was wrong about the by the way, about the menorah. So the only difference between them is that which one is going to, in other words, they can both do whichever. Whatever work they can do, even the menorah, they can each do. They can say, I'll do it today, you'll do it tomorrow, whatever it is. But the sacrifice for Yom Kippur, the par Kohen for Yom Kippur, אלא פר יום הכיפורים, the bull of Yom Kippur, the extra bull that one gives on Yom Kippur, שהכהן הגדול המשמש מקריבו, ולא הכהן שעבר. That the high priest, maybe I was wrong, maybe משמש means the regular one. I think משמש means the regular one. Let's change it again. I think that's what it means. The משמש, I think, means the regular one. The Meshamesh, like the one who does Shimush, the one who is usually there. That's the only way to read it, to read it, to make sense, to make it sense. The one that, Aaron is the Kohen Meshamesh. Yeah, Aaron is the Kohen Meshamesh. In Aaron.
Go back.
Yeah, that's right. That's why he says Mesh. That's right. So he has to bring the Yom Kippur one. Yeah, everything else the other one can do. His son can do, except this one. ולא הכהן שעבר, and not the Kohen that passed. And ועשירית האפה, and the 10th of the ephah, the wheat offering. שנאמר, זה קורבן אהרון ובניו אשר יקריבו להשם, ביום ימשך אותו. It says, this is the sacrifice of Aaron and his sons, in the day that they're going to be anointed to God. עשירית האפה, they have to give a 10th of a wheat offering. סולת מנחה תמיד. מחציתה בבוקר ומחציתה בערב. They have to bring half in the morning and half in the evening. והכהן המשיח תחתיו, מבניו יעשה אותה. And the כהן משיח underneath him, from his sons, he will do her. קורבן זה נקרא מנחת חביתין. This sacrifice is called the sacrifice of the oil. שהכהן הגדול מקריב כליל כל יום. That the high priest has to bring with the mincha and the shachris offering every day. ואין מנחה זו נוהגת אלא בכהן הגדול המשמש ולא בכהן גדול שעבר. And it has to be brought by the real Kohen, not the sub-Kohen. אבל לכל שאר הדברים, but for any other thing, כגון עבודת יום הכיפורים, for example, for serving in Yom Kippur or any other day, yeah? In other words, the other day, his son can do whatever he wants. לאיסור נשואי אלמנה, also it says only a high priest is not allowed to marry a widow. A regular priest is allowed to marry a widow. So now they're both not allowed to marry a widow. ולאיסור טומאת קרובים, and also any other priest, if a close family member, one of the 7 close family passes away, he's in mourning, he has to leave, yeah? The high priest doesn't leave. שניהם שווים, they're both equal. In other words, they're both high priest except for the bull of Yom Kippur and the wheat offering that comes twice a day, mincha and ma'ariv. The sacrifice itself, each one of them can bring.